What's the best pickup line you've heard? Story 1. Once was at a festival where an org was giving out free rubbers at a booth. One of the ladies are talking to a guy and a girl saying, "The rubbers are free, by the way, take as many as you want." "Oh, but we don't have unlimited stock, so please don't take more than you need." The girl picks one up, turns to the guy, and says, "Wanna share?" Story 2. I was at a friend's house and his 5-year-old brother grabbed one of our friends by the hand and asked if he could play her a song on his guitar. She said yes. He picked up his guitar but stopped just before strumming it. Thought for about 30 seconds and said, "I don't know any songs for princesses." That little kid had way more game than 19-year-old me had. Story 3. Buddy of mine just graduated the fire academy. This was 30 years ago. He and another graduate were at their graduation party at a bar when they were chatting up some girls. His friend was talking to a taller chick when she mentioned she might be too tall for him. His buddy, the shorter dude, remarked, "I bet you're worth the climb." Story 4. I was at the gym in the locker room and this girl saw me with the same towel. She said, "We have the same towel." And I was like, "True, haha." Then she said, "I wonder if we have the same phone number too. Wanna check?" I told her I already had a girlfriend, but I wished her the best because she deserves the world. Story 5. On Halloween, a buddy of mine was dressed as a Viking. He asked a girl if she wanted to hear his Viking pickup line. She said yeah. So he literally picked her up and threw her over his shoulder and said he was taking her back to the boat. They dated for almost a year. Story 6. When I was a student at university, I saw a pretty girl eating a particular brand of yogurt at the crowded dining hall before morning classes. I had the same brand of yogurt on my tray. I asked her if I could sit at her table and she nodded. I looked across the table at her and pointed at her yogurt and said with a big schmucky smile, "Yoplait or mine?" It was said with humor and not as a pickup line. I ended up marrying that pretty girl. Amazing given the horrible first line. Story 7. I was late for my ride to Comic-Con Dragon Con, so I was running down the side of the road in a rough area of downtown Atlanta while wearing a giant hoop skirt 17th century gown. A rather tipsy-seeming gentleman did a full double take and said loudly, "That's the best goddamn thing I've seen since 1978. I am so curious what happened in 1978. Story 8. I was out jogging and passed this cute girl walking her dog. We both smiled at each other. A few minutes later, I was passing her again coming back up the same block. I, now walking, took a knee to pet the dog and said, "I can't pass up something so cute without saying hi." I then stood up and said, "Hi. Oh, your dog is pretty cute too." Story 9. It was the first snowfall of the season. The person and I were walking around campus together. We were friends who were heading out to grab a snack in between classes. We were quietly walking when the person suddenly said to me, "The snow looks beautiful today," in my native language. My name means snow/frost/ice. Turned out they were hitting on me, and I didn't even realize until later. Story 10. The running story I hear from their spouses is almost always, "I've heard so many lines that this one random phrase just disarmed me." I've used it a couple of times myself, and the reaction is always the same. They freeze for a second while it processes, then just start laughing. Once they start laughing, they are more likely to continue talking to you. I'm not really interested in relationships or banging. I did it as an experiment after seeing it work 3 times before. 3 of the couples I know that hooked up after I ran that experiment actually credit me for the line, but the first one to use it was my nephew on his now wife. Even better, it's universal. Women can use it, men can use it, non-binary people can use it, whatever, but remember, it's all in the delivery. You either have to go way over the top or be completely deadpan. That is the only way it works. I have no idea what this guy was talking about, to be completely honest. I don't even know if the editor's gonna leave this one in. What happened here? What does this mean? What's the line? Let us know your secrets! Story 11. When I was living in China, I was in a city about 90 minutes from Hong Kong, so parts of the city had people who spoke English, but the area of the city I lived in didn't have many English speakers. I think I met half a dozen adults who spoke English and a bunch of kids. There was a language school next door to my apartment complex. And apparently there was one other Westerner in the area. I never met her, but all the kids I met assumed I was related to her. So when someone spoke English to me, it was always sort of startling. I was browsing in Sephora one day, and it shocked the hell out of me when someone yelled, in English, "Put the frickin' lotion in the basket." I swear, my head spun round so fast, it was like 2 horror movie homages in one. And then he said, I knew I had to catch your attention somehow, and I gambled that you spoke English, and I was right. It was undoubtedly the most clever way anyone ever got my attention. China was wild, though. I was there in 2017, so anytime a guy wanted to hit on me, they just started singing Despacito to me. I'm still genuinely shocked at how popular that one was in China. Story 12. When I was teaching kindergarten, one of my students who knew I loved video games dropped this one on me. "You're pretty. You should come to my house after school and we can play Little Big Planet. My mom makes great snacks." His mom and I had a good laugh about it at pickup time. Story 13. Best one that worked for me was, is my tie straight? In every case, the woman I was talking to would look it over, make a microscopic adjustment, pat it down to ensure it was laying flat, and say, there, perfect. So she has already gotten up close, broken the touch barrier, taken some ownership of my appearance, and said that the results looked good. Then I say, I'm meeting someone today. Curiosity engaged. She asks, who? I say, hopefully, you. That always got a smile. Didn't always work, but worked better than anything else I ever tried. Story 14. This girl I used to work with and I went to a bar after work and we're having fun. She leans over to tell me a joke, and she says, 3 boy mice and a girl mouse were all stuck in a room with no doors and no windows. One of the boy mice asked the girl mouse how to get out, and she said, sleep with me tonight and I'll tell you in the morning. Next day, he's gone. The second boy mouse asks the girl mouse how he got out, and she says, sleep with me tonight and I'll tell you in the morning. Next day, he's gone too. So now the girl telling me this joke says, do you want to know how the last mouse got out of the box? And I say, yeah. And she says, sleep with me tonight and I'll tell you in the morning. All this while staring at me in the eyes and smiling. I said, check please, bartender. I forgot to ask her in the morning, but that was the best pickup line I've ever heard. Story 15. I was hanging out with this girl and we were at that stage where we were one-on-one, but we're trying to decide if we're just friends. So I followed procedure and let her break the touch barrier first. I reciprocated as we were sitting at this bar having a beer together after our other friends had left. She says, can I ask you a question? And I think she's going to say, do you like me? Or something like that. Instead, she asks, I've always wanted to mess around with a guy's butt. Are you down for that? It was direct and it worked for her. Story 16. A long time ago, I worked in the nightclub scene. End of the night, lights are up, and the last stragglers are paying their tabs or trolling. One of our trawlers walks up to a woman signing her tab at the bar and interrupts her with, listen, when you get done here, let's go back to your place and I'll bang you in the butt for 15 minutes, leave, and never call you again. The whole club went silent as everyone heard what he said. Staff literally stopped in their tracks to see what would happen next. Real world, slow motion stuff. She signed her tab, grabbed his hand, and they left together. Story 17. We were just joking around over text about some of our classes, and she goes, personally, my favorite is anatomy. I'd let you help me study later if you want. I replied, I'd offer to help you with chemistry, but I think we've already got that one figured out. I think we both stunned each other into silence. Story 18. I saw a girl walking down the street once and her shoe was untied. So I bent down, started tying it, and said, I wouldn't want you falling for anyone else. I was with a lot of friends at the time who lost it, so it didn't go anywhere, but it seemed like it worked. The better part is one of my buddies was like, oh crap, that's amazing, I gotta try that, and got so excited, did the same thing, and the person he chose was wearing sandals. So they just went, what the hell are you doing? He panicked and just ran away. Funniest thing ever. Story 19. I guess this doesn't really answer the question, but in my younger days, I used to play a game called Pick a Girl, Pick a Line. My buddies would pick any girl in the bar and any pickup line, and I'd give it a shot. They generally picked beautiful women and terrible lines. My favorites were, damn girl, you poop with that butt, and did you fall from heaven because your face is fricked up? The first one got me a 2-syllable gross. The second one the girl thought was hilarious and I ended up drinking with her and her friends most of the night. Didn't seal the deal with either though. Story 20. Look, I don't really like this whole scene. I'd rather be at home chilling out and I find it frickin' exhausting pretending to be witty and confident and clever or whatever. And this noise and crowd hurt my head to be honest. It's just not me. But I do really like you. I'd love to hang out with you again and get to know you more. The only success I've ever had was with this. 6 years later, and we're still together and married. Story 21. Using a pickup line as a joke format rather than an invitation to relations. I once made a girl ruin her laptop with a spit take in music theory. This is what I hit her with. I wish I were a German augmented sixth chord so you would resolve my raised member. It was right as my professor was explaining the concept, as otherwise it's nowhere near that funny. Story 22. I actually said this out of the blue, so for context, I'm a waiter at a restaurant, and there was this girl customer who was like in her early 20s. She was very extroverted and spoke a lot, like a lot. We were at the front trying to pay for her bill, and she just kept going and going and going. Once we finished, I said, geez, what a roller coaster, because talking with her was so wild. And she replied, ha, sorry, talking to me does that. So I smirked and said back, it's fine. It makes me want to pay for another ride. And I will never forget how both of our eyes widened because I didn't think it would come out like that, but it did. Story 23. Some random dude on Instagram messaged me this. Don't sit there and like my comment if you're not going to let me eat you from the back with my hands tied behind my back like I'm in a pie eating contest and I have to beat a record of 2.3 seconds. Honestly, if I were single at the time, I would have taken his offer. Edit. I want to clear the air since I didn't really make it sound like a joke, but I 100% would not have taken his offer. Because A, at the time of the message, I was a literal minor, and B, such a jump statement to a complete stranger is weird as hell and says a lot about someone's character. I just thought it was a funny thing for a dude to send me at the time. Story 24. Went to a bar with my uncle and his friend, both mid-50s. His friend sees a woman his age at the end of the bar. They make eye contact, and he asks the bartender to send her a drink. Then, about 30 minutes later, another. We say goodbyes with friend about 20 minutes later and all decide to leave. He walks to the end of the bar to the lady he hasn't spoken to the whole time we've been there. Are you ready to go? She grabbed her purse and they left together. Story 25. I was out at a bar with a friend of mine. One of his friends, a girl I'd never met before, met up with us. The bar had a few board games, but most were in bad shape and missing pieces. Guess who had most of its cards, so we took turns playing a few rounds of that. My friend got up to use the restroom while the girl and I were playing the game. On one of her turns, she looks down at the remaining character and asks, "Are you single?" It took me a couple of beats to realize that the question was not about my character in that round of the game. I was not single, so I said no, and we continued the game like nothing happened, but it was smooth as hell. Story 26. Never happened to me, but a friend of mine told once that his buddy would walk up to girls in a bar, throw an ice cube at the ground, and say, "Now that I've broken the ice." He said, "Isn't that lame?" And I had to admit that I would definitely at least give the guy the next 5 to 10 minutes of my attention. Story 27. Not really a pickup line because I was already friends with the girl for several years, but it accomplished the same goal. She told me she went indoor skydiving. I told her I could see her being good at it. She asked, why? I told her that there's an axiom in aeronautical engineering. If it looks good, it'll fly well. She enjoyed that line. We'd expressed interest in each other a few years before this and even went on a date, but it didn't go anywhere due to logistical challenges. I credit this interaction with putting us back on the path to being more than friends, and we banged the next time we saw each other. Story 28. I found a picture of the prettiest chick ever. Wanna see? He showed me a screen and it had it on the camera, except it was on the back camera and I was looking at a trash can. I laughed and told him it was looking at the trash. He got nervous and tried to fix it, but it got me. And now we're married and expecting baby number 2. Story 29. Freshman year of college. I was at a friend's party waiting in line for the keg. There's a girl who's a couple years older than me in line behind me, and we were just small talking. My pager went off, so I grabbed it to check who paged me. The girl kind of shoved me in the shoulder and said, "Hey, I have the same pager as you. You should probably page me tomorrow to make sure mine works." And then she wrote her number on my hand and walked away. Made my day. We only went on a couple of dates, though. She was into becoming a medical doctor, and I was into psychedelic drugs and punk rock and hip-hop shows. To each their own. Story 30. Not a pickup line, but it could be. I have a coworker who is old enough to be my dad, and he is very positive towards women. All he wants to do is make sure all the women in his life are having a good day. Every time he sees a woman coworker, he comes up, gives this hella attractive smile, and in a soothing tone says, "Hey beautiful, how you doing today?" When a random man says that to me, awful, but Kenny? Oh, makes my knees weak.